On October 18th, 1867, a flag is lowered and another is raised. In Sitka, Alaska, Russian soldiers stand beside American troops as the Stars and Stripes replace the double-headed eagle of Imperial Russia. With that ceremony, the United States officially took possession of Alaska, a vast frozen wilderness that many Americans believed was worthless. But this moment was decades in the making. So, how and why did the U.S. purchase Alaska? And where did the name Alaska come from? It all began back in 1784 when Russian fur trader Grigory Shelikhov established the first permanent settlement at Three Saints Bay on Kodiak Island. For the next century, Russian traders and explorers built small outposts across the territory, hunting sea otters and trading with native peoples. But the region was harsh and remote. Supply lines stretched across thousands of miles, and conflicts with local tribes made life difficult. By the mid-1800s, Russia's empire was struggling, and Alaska had become more burden than benefit. After the Crimean War, Russians feared losing Alaska to rival powers like Britain, so, in 1866, they decided to sell. Across the ocean, U.S. Secretary of State William Seward saw an opportunity. A firm believer in American expansion, Seward envisioned Alaska as the gateway to Asian trade and a strategic foothold on the Pacific. He was also secretly hoping to absorb Canada, and Alaska could position the U.S. to do so. Negotiations with Russian Minister Edward de Stockel moved quickly. On March 30th, 1867, the two nations agreed to a price, $7.2 million, roughly 2 cents per acre for 600,000 square miles of land. Incidentally, $7.2 million would be about $160 million today. The U.S. Senate ratified the treaty on April 9th, and President Andrew Johnson signed it into law in May. The purchase was one of the few accomplishments for a president who is routinely ranked by historians as one of the nation's worst. At home, the public reaction was anything but supportive. Critics mocked the purchase as Seward's Folly, Seward's Icebox, and even Andrew Johnson's Polar Bear Garden. Why, they asked, would America spend millions on a frozen wasteland? But Seward was undeterred and even predicted, quote, "The day will come when our children will thank us for this acquisition," end quote. That day came sooner than anyone expected. In 1898, gold was discovered in Nome, Alaska, sparking a rush of settlers, prospectors, and opportunity. The territory that once seemed worthless was now seen as a land of riches and promise. Britain, however, outflanked Seward in his goal of using Alaska to acquire Canada. A few months after the U.S. agreed to purchase Alaska, Britain granted the U.S.'s northern neighbor home rule. A U.S. invasion of Canada could no longer be seen as liberation from British tyranny, but would instead be encroachment on a sovereign land. Nevertheless, the 1898 discovery of gold and later discoveries of oil and other resources would cement Alaska's value to the United States. But the new American territory could have had a very different name. Before the U.S. bought Alaska, the territory was generally referred to as Russian America. That name, of course, wouldn't do. U.S. officials, including Seward, considered several names, including Sitka, which was then the capital, or Yukon, which was the name of the territory's largest river. Ultimately, the name Alaska was chosen, which comes from the Aleut name for the large peninsula that juts out of the southwestern edge of the territory and means the Great Land. Alaska became the 49th U.S. state on January 3, 1959. Today, it provides about a quarter of America's oil and more than half of its seafood, while preserving some of the planet's most breathtaking wilderness. Although it ranks only 48th in population, Alaska is the largest U.S. state by land area. It is not, however, as large as it often seems on maps, mainly because most rectangular maps severely distort the areas closest to the poles. In reality, Alaska is roughly 1/5 the size of the continental U.S., making it about 2.5 times the size of the second largest state, Texas. Maps like this one do a better job when it comes to size. 2 state holidays honor Alaska's origins. Seward's Day, the last Monday in March, marks the signing of the treaty, and Alaska Day, on October 18th, commemorates the formal transfer of power with a yearly reenactment in Sitka of the ceremony from back in 1867. What began with a small Russian outpost in 1784 and a ridiculed purchase in 1867 would become one of the greatest land deals in history. From Seward's Folly to the Great Land, Alaska's story is one of vision, doubt, and discovery. October 18th, 1867, the day America bought a frozen frontier and ended up striking gold. Here are other events that happened today in history. In 1469, Ferdinand of Aragon marries Isabella of Castile, uniting the dominions of Spain. In 1767, Mason and Dixon complete a survey of the boundary between Pennsylvania and Maryland. In 1898, during the Spanish-American War, the U.S. takes control of the island of Puerto Rico. In 1931, prolific inventor and businessman Thomas Edison dies in New Jersey at age 84. In 1977, Mr. October Reggie Jackson hits 3 home runs in Game 6 of the World Series. In 2017, O.J. Simpson is released from a Nevada prison after serving 9 years of a 33-year sentence. In 2023, Joran Vandersloot admits to killing Alabama teen Natalie Holloway in Aruba in 2005. And now it's time for our Today in History quiz. Where is Yorktown, the site of the last major battle of the American Revolutionary War? New York? New Jersey? Maryland? Or Virginia? Liked learning about how the U.S. acquired Alaska? Then you'll love this one about the impeachment of Andrew Johnson, the president who was in power at the time. Tap the screen to keep the story going on Today in History.